everyone. Welcome back to Catalyst Conversations. We often talk on this podcast about wealth as a strategy. We talk about numbers, we talk about investments, we talk about the architecture of wealth. But there's one component that we don't talk about very often, and that is safety. The truth is, if you don't feel safe, whether it's psychologically or culturally, you cannot actually take the bold risks that are required to build a legacy. You can't ask for the fees that you deserve. You can't move from just earning money to actually architecting wealth. Well, my guest today is a master of creating that safety, and she's always learning. She will be the first to tell you. Chantal Fraser is a thought partner and the founder of Empowered Path Inc. She has quite a fascinating background that blends immense discipline with deep intuition. Chantal actually grew up in a military family, and she continued on to serve a 28-year career in the Canadian Armed Forces, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. And today, Chantal is a proud citizen of the Métis Nation of Ontario. She helps folks discover their paths to economic security. Chantal facilitates the National Indigenous Women Entrepreneurs ecosystem and delivers the Cultivating Safe Spaces framework to employers across Canada. Today, what a conversation we're going to have. We're going to discuss how to trust your gut when opportunity knocks. Why money, and I love how she says that, money is simply an elegant exchange of energy, and how to create the safety you need to thrive. Chantal, welcome to the conversation this morning.
Thank you, Adriana. It is a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be part of this conversation. And I will admit, I binge listened to several episodes before today's recording.
As anyone who's serious about getting their message across should. You do the groundwork, and that's probably maybe evidence of how you approach many things that you do, many opportunities that come knocking. You do your research, you do your due diligence. So absolutely 100%. And I think that makes me even more curious about, that background that you've brought into your current like service, how it's like service has taken on a whole different name or meaning for you because you served in the Canadian Armed Forces, and now you're serving your clients as a thought partner. Now listen, many of my listeners have trouble with shifting identity. And I see a huge shift in identity from military training, military service to now moving to thought partner. How do you navigate that change? That I wouldn't even say it's a change necessarily, that evolution, that shift in your identity. How did you do it? How did it work for you?
Wow, that's a big question. I could fill our entire conversation with an answer to that question. So I'm going to take a moment to think about this, to which aspects I'd like to
Sure.
share.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that I grew up in a military family.
Yeah.
And one of the joys of growing up in a military family was that my parents came from two different cultures. My mom was French Canadian and my dad was English Canadian. And so when they met, they were blending their cultures, and they were considered to be a mixed marriage because my mom was Roman Catholic faith and my dad was technically Anglican. So for their time and their generation, that was like, whoa, what are you
Wow.
doing making this partnership? And throughout my childhood, my parents taught my sister and I that we could be anything we wanted to be. We could accomplish anything we wanted to accomplish.
Mhm.
That we should ask for what we wanted,
Right.
because worst case scenario, people would say no. And if they said yes, we'd get what we wanted,
Right.
right? And the last little tidbit they shared was marry somebody who's at least as smart as you, or you'll get bored.
Oh, that's a good one for all of our single ladies out there.
So, so why am I going back to the what I learned in my childhood before answering that? What it took to change from being in the military to being an entrepreneur and becoming a thought partner is that I was gifted with the privilege of being self confident from a very young age.
Mhm.
And while I've had challenges like everybody has, it took me 6 years to get through a 5 year university program. There's been challenges. Throughout, I was gifted with the self confidence that I could make my way through whatever challenges came my way.
Right.
And serving in the military felt quite natural and normal because I grew up in a military family, and then I served in the Air Cadets for 5 years. So I was used to the structure of drill and uniforms and all that. And while I was in the military, I started my exit strategy a good 5 years before I left. I
Got
didn't
it.
realize that I would be leaving in 5 years. What I realized was that I needed a network beyond my time in the military so I'd have a
Mhm.
safe space to land in when I left.
Right.
And so I joined my two professional associations in 2007, the Human Resources Professional Association and Business and Professional Women of Canada.
Right.
So what that meant is I had that safe network to rely on when I became a veteran. And I had the benefit of knowing I'd have a military pension, which is good for life,
Yep.
um, which meant there was less stress about economic security in my family's life. My husband had a successful business too. So, there was that took that stress away. And then, so all of that made the transition to life as an entrepreneur easier.
Hmm.
And then the transition to realizing that what I am is a thought partner took a few years because I started my business just taking the contracts that felt right. You said, like, let's listen to our intuition. If
Right.
somebody offered me a contract that felt icky, I
Hmm.
would say, no, thank you. However, this other person might be able to help you with what you're doing, like writing
Right.
human resources policies. And and I realized over time that the common thread in all the contracts I was saying yes to was the opportunity for me to act as a thought partner, a safe sounding board, somebody that people could share their
Mm.
ideas and concerns with. And I would be non judgmental because that's just the way I am. I believe
Right.
everybody has gifts and has good inside of them. Um, so that they could share their ideas and I could mirror things back and ask them questions, which would help bring them to insights that they already knew.
Yes.
They just weren't listening to themselves.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's powerful because you not only switched your like what you were doing, you also moved from the rigidity and I guess logical step-by-step approach to a more an approach that flows in let's think this through, let's work this through, let's do it together, and let me help you see what's already there, what's already inside you and moving. Now, I saw elements of safety as you were explaining that confidence you had to do things. When you were a child growing up, you were brought up in an environment where you felt safe expressing or trying things, expressing a thought, perhaps expressing a dissenting thought, a thought that might have gone opposite to what the status quo happened to be. You found safety. And within that safety, would you say your confidence, that self-assurance was able to grow and blossom?
That's an astute observation, and you're making me reflect on my childhood even more. I'm grateful that my parents raised my sister and I to be confident, successful women who are economically secure. That was an important thing too. be able to take care of yourself financially. Don't rely on anybody else to do that. Um, so yes, I did grow up in safety, which allowed me to become self-confident, which allowed me to try many different things that other people would look at you and say, what? You're doing this and that with no
Yes.
experience? So yes, you are correct.
Yes. I love that because I personally believe that if we provide safe spaces, we would see so many more things happen. I feel like we need places where it is safe to not just try new things, but where it's okay to fail at a thing or two, to try it and not have success, at least not the way the metric is constantly measured. But let's please talk a little bit about those safe spaces. So you have specialized, and I know this has been an evolution in your path, but as of this conversation and what we see as the foreseeable future, you specialize in the cultivating safe spaces framework. Now, for high achieving women who are listening, who feel constantly under pressure to perform, some of our women are probably dealing with imposter syndrome to some degree, whether as a worker in the C-suite or as an employer or an entrepreneur who is struggling to, you know, charge what you're worth. So, within the framework of what you've learned and the experiences that you've had, what does a safe space actually look like?
That is a fabulous question. And I've just jotted down some notes to make sure I answer
Oh,
this without going into storytelling mode and telling you my whole history.
yeah.
um, One of the things that's really critical to cultivating a safe space for yourself, whether it's your workplace or your home or your club or your professional association, any space you are in,
Mhm.
a key thing is understanding yourself and what's important to you and what your values are. And when
Mhm.
you understand yourself and your values, then you're rooted in this is what is important to me, this is what I'm willing to accept, and this is what I'm not. Okay.
Right.
So that's very important. And when you feel safe in relationship with your clients, in relationship with your boss, when you've cultivated that relationship where you can be as authentically yourself as you feel safe to do so, right?
Mhm.
In those relationships, then it becomes much easier to ask for what you're worth. And to illustrate this, I'm going to share a story that happened to
Oh.
me within the last week. Um, One of the things I do is deliver training for other organizations. And one of my longstanding clients came up to me last week and said, Chantal, you're fluently bilingual, and I'm not. And my organization has been invited to be present at an event in 2026 where it's going to be all in French. You know our platform, you know our company, you know what we offer. We've hired you to teach other people about us before. Would you be
Mhm.
willing to go to the province of Quebec and speak about our platform for 8 hours in French?
Right.
And I said, absolutely. And so he said, well, tell me what your quote would be. And then I went through that whole what you described of the imposter system and what do I charge? And I know what I'm charging for cultivating safe spaces if I went away for a day and I talked to coaches and I talked to my circle of close colleagues, you know, trying to figure out what I was going to charge.
Right.
And then I woke up on Friday morning and I said to myself, Chantal, you have a safe relationship with this colleague. You've
Right.
known this person for over 10 years. You've worked for his organization for 5. Be honest. So I
Yeah.
sent an email and I said, all right, so here's what I estimate it'll cost for me to travel to the city we're talking about. Here's my proposed itinerary. Starting in January 2026, this is what I'm charging for a full day event. plus
Hmm.
HST. And then I said, what do you think would be reasonable to pay me to attend on your behalf? And I'm willing to go. You don't have to come with me. You don't speak any French. It's really difficult to be immersed in an environment where you don't
Right.
understand the language and can't communicate. So I said, you don't have to be there. I'm confident I can represent your organization on my own in French for the full 8 hours. All I need are some of your resources to hand out, and I'll tell everybody to contact you for sales meetings and stuff like that. Right?
Right.
He came back on first thing Monday morning. I woke up and I read an email, and he offered me what my gut told me was the right price, what I hoped to get paid. And we since then we've aligned all the details. I'm in contact with the
Wow.
organization. So that came from a safe space of knowing my client, knowing
Mhm.
my value, and having an honest conversation.
Yeah, that sounds like alignment to me. If ever I've heard about an example that just typifies what alignment looks like and feels like, and that's it. And you're right. Alignment happens in spaces of safety. But I'm curious, Chantal, because I'm curious about whether safe spaces are always comfortable spaces. And I'm sitting here listening to your example, listening to you kind of define what safe spaces look like, what they would feel like. Is it always comfortable?
Well, of course not. Him. You don't have to feel comfortable to be safe, right? In fact, if you're in a truly safe place, there's going to be conflict and there's going to be disagreement and there's going to be people, what some might consider challenging, but what I consider they're sharing their truths and I need to listen to understand.
Right.
So, yeah, of course, there's going to be discomfort. That doesn't mean you're unsafe. Yeah, I mean, you're unsafe when you feel like you can't disagree with somebody.
Right, right. So when within our safe spaces, and especially when we're applying this culturally, you are a citizen of the Métis Nation. I am an immigrant. I'm benefiting from the work of colonizers, people that have abused and misused the privilege of your resources, your people's resources in your land. We come from what some would say completely different sides of the spectrum. But within that, we can create spaces where we can both be safe, even as we apply our different perspectives. And within that safety, explore areas where we can be mutually served, mutually supported, where no one wins at the expense of the other, and we all can be well and do well together. So I'm curious then, since some of our safe spaces may be a bit uncomfortable, how do we kind of distinguish between, um, that fear where we're afraid of potential growth or we're afraid of, an opportunity, or sometimes we're afraid of success, just the idea of success, we're afraid versus that discomfort that says misalignment. Beep, 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 beep. This is not right. Dude, the sirens are going off in your head. Your gut is, I think you used the phrase gut curl. Your gut saying, don't do. How do we distinguish between those two?
Oh, you asked the deep questions.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, my audience needs those answers because these are the things you don't get on a Google search, right? These are the things that actually impact long-lasting decision making and growth and becoming. So yes, I really do ask the deep questions. How do we differentiate, Chantal?
Okay. Um, so to me, from what I've learned about cultivating safe spaces and the reason it resonates so deeply with me is it's about having a feeling of connection and belonging, a feeling where we're safe to be ourselves.
Mhm.
Okay. And because my background's in human resources, generally I'm looking at this from the employer employee perspective and how to cultivate those safe spaces. Um, because when we're in that feeling of connection and belonging and safety,
Mhm.
then everyone wins, right? Um, and that's not always comfortable. And I kept flipping through, like flashbacks from my time in the military where I expressed idiocy in policies that were being recommended.
Mhm.
Um, and I was ordered not to say the idiocy of a new policy that was being, or a
Wow.
new reorganization that was being um, contemplated
Right.
in my last year in the military. And I was given a scripted line that I could say about this thing. And that's, Fraser, this is what you're allowed to say.
Right.
So I said it.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't quite recall if I said something else right after or if the person chairing the meeting said, "Are there any questions or concerns?" And I thought, you know what? If I can't say this as a lieutenant colonel, when can I say this? So I
Right.
expressed my discontent. And as one of my colleagues said later, I named the elephant in the room,
Right.
right? Like that everybody knew this was not a good idea, right?
Yes.
And a gentleman sitting two people over from me looked around me after I finished saying what I had to say, and I was thanked for sharing my thoughts. He said, "You do know that your boss's boss works for the people whose idea this is, right? Like that." And I said, "Yes." and, um, however,
Mhm.
because I had that 28 years of military experience and I felt like it was part of my family, and even 13 years of veteran, the military is still my family, right? Like,
Right.
just because I don't live with them doesn't mean they're not my family, right?
That's right.
So um, I said it, and that idea was stopped because somebody was brave enough to say, "This is stupid. Why are
Right.
we considering doing this?" And I didn't get in trouble for it. In fact, it raised my street cred because I had the audacity to disagree. Okay.
Yes.
So, so coming back to your question of how do we know when we're in a safe enough space where we can disagree
Mhm.
compared to when we're in an unsafe space and we're misaligned and we shouldn't be there? If you come into work or you're in your business and you're talking with potential clients and you feel like you cannot disagree with somebody or share your ideas, then you are
Mhm.
not in a safe space,
Right.
right? If you have that conversation with a potential client and they say, "Oh, Chantal, we'd really love you to do this for your project." And you look at the what the hourly rate would be once they tell you, "Yeah, we're going to give you this hourly rate, but we expect you to match the hours with pro bono time, and we're going to give you all the tasks we don't like doing."
Right. Uh-huh.
Like, it's like, "Thank you, but no thank you. I'm no longer available for this opportunity." Right? Like,
Right.
it's if you know somebody's going to be a pain in the butt to work with, and it could, you don't even need to know it here. You need to know it like in your heart or in your gut, or you wake up with like just like, "Oh, working with this person or this organization is going to cause me pain." Then you are
Yes.
misaligned and there are other opportunities out there. And by saying no to the opportunity that's misaligned, you open up the doors to all of the wonderful opportunities, all of the abundance that's out there waiting to come your way. And when
Mhm.
you focus on what your values are, what your beliefs are, and what you want to do in your life, those opportunities will come to you.
Yes, yes, without a doubt. And it seems to happen time and time again. And yet, when we feel that little twinge of discomfort, we keep being unsure what it is. But I found that with the twinge, it's usually paired with something else. Sometimes it's paired with that knowing that that was very uncomfortable. I don't feel grounded. I don't feel rooted. I don't feel safe. But sometimes the little twinge comes with a bit of excitement, that thing that says, oh my gosh, what if? Oh my goodness, but what if just dot dot dot? So I think it's so important that as we sit in those safe spaces, we give ourselves the opportunity to actually understand the signals that we're being given. Do you know what I mean? Because so many of us think that the moment we get a little bit of, apprehension that everything's stop, 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 stop. Well, no. It might be pause, understand, and then take the next step. Have you found that to be a part of the experience either you've had or your clients have had?
Yes, yes, 100% yes. Uh, and um, yesterday I was a guider for 10 years with Girl Guides Canada.
Mhm.
Yesterday, the Girl Guides Canada came out and said, we're having this wonderful event in May for 16 to 19-year-olds. Are you these things? So I tagged one of my professional associations and some people and said, hey, we should think about this. Moved on, going on with my day. This morning I woke up and during my morning gratitude practice, the message came to me. It's like, Chantal, you could be a speaker talking about cultivating safe spaces for the Girl Guides of Canada to help
Yes,
these girls turning into women understand themselves and understand what a safe space is so that they can go on to create the careers or businesses of their dreams. So
right.
sometimes, like, yes, there's that discomfort and you pause or you sleep on it and you wake up and go, yes. And sometimes there's some signal flashing its way at you and you're not really paying attention. And when you pause and wake up, you say, ooh, I should pay attention to that signal because this is an
Yes.
opportunity to do something I love, helping other people do something they love. And it's like spreading that circle of abundance out further.
Yes. I love that. Literally, when I was doing my morning practice, I have a prayer journal. The word that came to mind for me, I literally wrote it down, was reciprocity. Reciprocity. And I sat there and I thought I was meditating on a scripture. And I sat there and I thought to myself, yes, it's kind of like in science where they say, what I think it's for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And I put opposite and in brackets I says directionally, not in that good or bad. But if you give it out this way, it's going to come back that way. And there's that reciprocity that kind of circles through. I see that in safe spaces. I see that happening so naturally, so fluidly. In fact, you don't even have to go looking for it. When we're in safe spaces, there is that naturally occurring reciprocity. And it happens with wealth as well. It happens when we acknowledge cultures. It happens when we acknowledge other people's psychological well-being. I find I am excited by reciprocity, and I think from your reaction, you are too.
We are aligned because when I was jotting down notes to make sure I covered the right stuff answering the last question, I wrote down reciprocity and then I
Mm,
forgot to come back to it. And you brought it up.
there
So
you
I'm going to do a
go.
little riff on reciprocity right now. Um, I grew up in a military family and military culture. I didn't learn about my Métis culture until I was an adult. And then opportunities were fleeting because I live in Ontario, not in Winnipeg, not in the prairies. And in 2022, one of my Métis colleagues said, Chantal, there's this program called Meeting My Ancestors, and it's where we can connect with our Métis heritage and start learning. And yes, it's online, but that online is better than no
Yeah.
culture, right? So I joined that community and I've been a member ever since. And one of the first things that we were taught about was that reciprocity is the basis of Métis culture.
Wow.
And that felt right. It felt aligned because that's the way I was growing up. It's if
Mm.
somebody can't and paying it forward is the second part of that, right? When you have a lot, you pay it forward and help others. And
Right.
reciprocity does not need to be, I give you this, you give me something back that's of equal monetary value,
Right.
right? It could be like when I used to barter with women who couldn't afford to hire me as a business coach, right?
Yes.
One of those was my Tai Chi instructor. And she's like, I need your help to solve this problem in my business, but I can't afford you. And I said, I need Tai Chi lessons. And she said, but the Tai Chi lessons don't cost anywhere near what you charge for your hourly coaching. And I said, it doesn't matter. I feel the value of the Tai Chi lesson is equivalent, even if you charge less than that to teach people Tai Chi,
Right.
right? So to me that was reciprocity. And then like I said, when we have abundance, we need to pay it forward to others, um, so that we can help them, because we all have gifts and everybody has times where their gifts are not enough to sustain them so that they're able to feed themselves or house themselves or whatever. So if we can pay it forward by helping others,
Yeah.
then that's part of that bigger picture of reciprocity.
Absolutely. I love that because unfortunately for many of us, we're tied to the idea that money is the only measure of worth. And I hate that because we are so much more. Our skills, our gifts to the world is so much more than can be encapsulated in a dollar value. So whenever we talk about, as entrepreneurs, how women struggle to charge their worth, I'm like, because you can't tie my worth to a charge, to a dollar figure. My worth is something intrinsic. It's who I am. It's kind of like when you talk about your heritage, you are not only one thing. So how can you show up to the world and have them label you as one thing? You look at me, I am very beautifully browned and toned without the need of the sun. My melatonin is rich. But if that's all you see, you have no understanding of my worth. I look at your braid that beautifully flows over your shoulder. If that's all I see, I'm nowhere close to understanding your worth. So I love when you talk about money as a graceful exchange of energy. Tell me a little bit about that as we kind of wrap this up, because I think it's a beautiful way of expressing kind of what money is about.
I think this is a beautiful place to take the conversation. And I want to address something you mentioned earlier, and that's that fear of success and that corollary fear of making money, right?
Hmm.
Because many of us have been conditioned to think of rich people as really evil folks.
Yep,
Many folks have this feeling that the energy of money is evil, and it's not.
it's
Money
not.
is just that measure of exchange. It helps make things happen. If you have money, like everything else is easier. However, money isn't evil. Money is an opportunity to pay it forward to help others. As my business grows and more money flows into my bank account, I'm able to hire other entrepreneurs. Most of them are
Yep,
solopreneur women like me or women running small organizations. I'm able to hire them to help me do things I don't like to do, which means that their families are thriving or their as individuals are thriving. And it means that I can sponsor things or I can gift money to organizations that are meaningful to me,
hmm,
right? So when we thrive,
yes,
like there's thriving with joy and health and wealth and all that good health and wellness, I mean, all that good stuff. When we thrive in a monetary fashion, we can share that with others, right?
absolutely.
So to me, money is just a measure of energy, and there's nothing evil about it at all.
Yes, 100,000%. Because I've been saying it for years. The power that money has is as it is used in the hands of the one deploying it. And we've seen it used to do harm. but the money was not the problem. The hands that wielded the money as a weapon, those hands were the problem. We've seen money do really amazing things in the world, and money was not the good here. It's the hands that used it as a balm, as a solace, as a comfort, as a support. The hands are the thing that actually make the difference. So I can't tell you how great this has been, but I'm not quite done with you yet. Your your motto is share, learn, thrive, and I'm loving this. One of the mottos I keep in mind is for myself, I am healthy, wealthy, whole. And when you say share, learn, thrive, I think I feel like we're going down a similar path here. As someone who is constantly learning, because I sense that in you, you're always looking for that next opportunity to exchange wisdom and to learn and grow. What's something that you're learning right now that's really helping you to grow and to thrive?
Yeah. Well, something I'm learning right now is more about my Métis culture and language. So
Mhm.
I'm learning how to speak Northern Michif, which is very close to Cree. I put out into the universe last week or 2 weeks ago that I was looking for a journal for next year, and I was trying to find a journal, and I've got very little answers back. One of the other answers that came to me this morning was, Chantal, on Instagram, you saw a journal that has English and Cree words in it. So that's the one you
Oh,
should get for 2026. So I'm going to get that.
oh
Um,
wow.
because understanding language is key to understanding culture,
Culture.
right?
Yes.
Um, as Elaine Alec, the creator of the Cultivating Safe Spaces framework, says, English is the okayest language around. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much room for misinterpretation and miscommunication when people are speaking English because of the way the language is structured and because of how so many people around the world learn it as a second language or a third or fourth. Um,
Right.
Understanding language helps you understand culture. Understanding culture helps you communicate with people um, more effectively. Understanding two languages for pretty much my whole life has made me more open to understanding people from different cultures because there are different ways of thinking between French and English culture.
Right.
Neither is good or bad, it's just different.
It just is.
Yeah. Um, so that's what I'm learning now. And it seems like this week is my week for learning about other ways to gather wealth because in LinkedIn this morning, there was an invitation to attend a session this Thursday um, about Indigenous folks cultivating wealth within communities. And I was offered an opportunity to participate in that, received a complimentary ticket. So uh, there's always opportunities to learn. I'm always learning. I'm reading, I'm listening to other folks with different lived experiences. Um, and everything I learn, I feel like it's a flower unfolding and like, or
Oh,
not
yes.
unfolding, a flower blossoming. So every little bit of knowledge brings more beauty into my life.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like the more you learn, the more you want to learn? Because it just opens up. It's like, oh, I didn't know this. And then you're like, but what about that? And it becomes this beautiful, like you said, blossoming. It turns into a whole thing. I have some friends who are academics, and I would sit there and I'm like, how can you live your whole life in academia? But I get it to some degree because there is this excitement in the exchange of knowledge that just, oh, you can just bask in it, I think.
It's perhaps I agree, but it's also perhaps that rebellion to my military life is that I had the opportunity as a military veteran to pursue additional post-secondary studies or formal certification as a coach or whatever,
Mhm.
and have Veteran Affairs Canada pay for it. My gut said these systems of learning are now misaligned. I do
Yeah.
not like to learn this way. I want to learn from people. I want to learn from people's experiences. So I read autobiographies and I attended. Oh, anybody out there who's like me and very melanin challenged and wants to understand racism, I strongly recommend investing in Salam Deb's anti-racism course. I took that earlier this year. I'm still unpacking everything that I learned. I still re-listen to the videos because it's not something you, or the way I learn, it's not something I get right away. I need to ponder what I've learned and
Right.
discuss it with others. So yeah, so for me, I have not yet felt a desire to stop learning. It's part
Yeah.
of my DNA, and there's opportunities to learn all around us.
Yes, there certainly are. And I really enjoyed, I mean, we just kind of touched the tip of, exploring how we can create those safe spaces and what that would look and feel like. But I know I am certain that our guests who have been listening and watching this episode will want to know more. So please, Chantal, can you tell us where we can find you, how can we interact with your work, and where you are in the interwebs.
All right. So my website is the shortest website version I could think of with the shortest business name I could think of, that embodies what I had a glimmer I would be doing, 13, 14 years ago, and it continues to be applicable. So the website is empoweredpath.ca.
Mhm.
I figured I didn't need ink in the website. And I am most active on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So it's Chantal Fraser. If you search for me, you'll find me because I'm all over the place. I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you're not a LinkedIn user and you really don't have any interest in going there, you can also find me on Instagram. I'm Chantal Fraser. E as in empowered, P is in path, I is in ink. So Chantal Fraser, EPI. Um, and I'd love to connect with folks who are listening to this call. I sent LinkedIn invitations to folks that were on your episodes that I binge listened to this week.
Absolutely. And isn't that how we create those safe spaces? We can reach out to others authentically, understanding their message with a genuine desire to learn more, create those connections, nurture those connections, and experience genuine reciprocity as we learn and grow together. Chantal, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Do you have, I mean, you're a thought partner. I'm sure you have perhaps a final thought that would possibly engage our audience, maybe to take an action or to perform one act of, exploration or learning or sharing. What's your last takeaway for us today?
So you made my brain explode with a gazillion different ideas. Um, for my last takeaway thought, I want to share that most people are good, in spite of what social media and the mainstream media tell us. Most people are good and they would like to help you if they understood what it is you're looking for help. So please be brave and ask the people you feel comfortable and safe doing so for help in areas where you want help, because even if they can't help you, they probably know somebody who can.
Yes. Wow. What a beautiful way to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, Chantal. It has been my absolute pleasure having you today.
It's been an honor to be here. Thanks so much.
Well, I hope you felt the energy of that conversation. Honestly, I really enjoyed exploring the idea of safe spaces with Chantal today and understanding, that gut feeling. You don't always have to run away from it. You can lean into it when you're in a safe space. And as you architect your wealth, you will be presented with opportunities that look good on paper, high returns, prestige, status, all of that good stuff. But if they don't leave you feeling good, they are not aligned. And in a safe space, you are more than free to walk away. If they're not aligned, it is not true wealth. They're just expensive distractions. Walk away. Well, if you are ready to stop accepting good enough and start building a legacy that feels safe and expansive, Chantal is a wonderful example of what that looks like in action. And if you are ready to align your high income with your deepest values, I invite you to visit my website, moneynavigator.ca, and book your private discovery call. Let's architect your wealth, your legacy together. Until next time, I wish for you safe spaces and the happy architecting of not just your wealth, but your whole life. Take care now.